Sheriff Leon Hayes, a man forged in the crucible of 20 years in law enforcement, a decade of which was dedicated to the quiet, yet often complex fabric of this particular town, prided himself on a measured approach to every situation. He'd navigated volatile domestic disputes, orchestrated stakeouts with the precision of a surgeon, and even calmed down a particularly aggressive flock of geese that had taken up residence in the town square. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the sheer, unadulterated absurdity that would soon unfold, all stemming from a simple act of mailbox fortification. It began subtly. First, it was the small, brightly colored package from his sister, always filled with thoughtful trinkets and handwritten notes. Then, a crucial letter from his goddaughter, detailing her exciting college plans, vanished. Most unnerving, however, was the discovery of a voter registration envelope. It's not only missing, but later found ripped open, its contents scattered on his lawn. These weren't random acts of vandalism. These were targeted pilferages designed to cause annoyance and perhaps a more sinister form of unease. The culprit, Leon quickly deduced, was as predictable as the sunrise, albeit with infinitely more malice. Across the street resided Karen, a retired woman whose culinary prowess with banana bread seemed only matched by her talent for cultivating an elaborate garden of conspiracy theories. Leon recalled her previous pronouncements with a weary sigh. His meticulously manicured lawn was too disciplined, and his unassuming security cameras were somehow invading her spiritual aura. Karen, it was clear, harbored a profound and unsettling animosity towards Leon, not because he was the sheriff, but because he was Leon, a black man. Calm, collected, and seemingly unbothered by her incessant need for drama. He was a living embodiment of everything she seemed to resent, and her frustration, Leon suspected, had finally boiled over into petty crime. This realization solidified his resolve. The petty thievery had to stop, and he was going to ensure it did, with a solution that was both practical and, as it turned out, spectacularly effective. Leon's solution was less a mailbox and more a miniature fortress. He commissioned a custom-built unit, a testament to modern security, and a stark contrast to the weathered, standard-issue boxes lining the rest of the street. This wasn't merely about keeping out the occasional pilferer. It was a statement, a declaration that his property, and by extension his peace, would be respected. The new mailbox was a marvel of reinforced steel, boasting a sophisticated smart locking mechanism, a high-resolution, wide-angle camera discreetly integrated into its design, and, for a touch of advanced security, fingerprint access. It was also equipped with real-time tamper detection, sending instant alerts to Leon's phone at the slightest disturbance. He installed it on a Thursday, a crisp autumn day that belied the brewing storm on Karen's side of the street. By Friday morning, the storm had broken with the full force of Karen's unbridled outrage. Leon, enjoying his customary morning coffee on his porch, watched as Karen emerged from her house, notepad in hand, clutching it like a weapon. She marched to the property line, her face a mask of righteous indignation, and began a tirade about his supposed violation of the neighborhood's mailbox uniformity rules. Leon noted with a flicker of amusement that Karen, despite her self-appointed role as HOA enforcer, was not, in fact, an official board member. Her accusations escalated, morphing from mere rule-breaking to outright suspicion. She declared the mailbox suspicious and military-grade, boldly asserting that Leon was undoubtedly concealing something illicit within its metallic confines. Leon, accustomed to her theatrics, offered a curt, non-committal nod and continued sipping his coffee. He had no intention of engaging her in a debate about suburban security protocols. The real show, however, began later that afternoon. The afternoon brought a sharp, insistent ping from Leon's phone. The mailbox, his digital sentinel, had issued a tamper alert. He inwardly sighed, a familiar weariness settling in. To the live feed from the integrated camera, and there, in broad daylight, was Karen, a study in furtive desperation. She was crouched low, her form practically contorted, a glinting screwdriver clutched in her hand. Her movements were a clumsy ballet of attempted intrusion, a determined effort to pry open the reinforced steel with the same intensity she might use on a stubborn jar of pickles. It was a scene of such audacious, misguided effort that Leon almost felt a pang of pity, quickly followed by a surge of professional duty. He finished his coffee, a slow, deliberate act that amplified the absurdity of Karen's endeavor. Then, with a calm he had honed over years of de-escalating tense situations, he walked out his front door. Karen, startled by his sudden appearance, recoiled as if she'd encountered a phantom. Her eyes widened, and she scrambled to her feet, abandoning her tool of destruction. With a remarkably unconvincing attempt at nonchalance, she stammered out a defense, claiming she was merely just checking for bombs. She added, with a tremor in her voice, that the mailbox itself looked decidedly un-American. Leon, maintaining his composed demeanor, met her gaze. "Karen," he said, his voice even and firm, "tampering with someone's mailbox is a federal offense. I suggest you go home." For a fleeting moment, he thought he saw a flicker of understanding. In her eyes, a hint of her recognizing the gravity of her actions. But that moment vanished as quickly as it appeared. Instead of retreating, Karen's expression hardened. Her face, already flushed with exertion and indignation, took on a deeper crimson hue. With a dramatic huff, she turned on her heel and stormed back to her porch, her movements stiff with wounded pride. Leon watched, a silent observer of her escalating drama, as she fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling slightly. He knew with a certainty that bordered on the grimly prophetic what was coming next. Within mere minutes, the familiar yet often unwelcome sight of flashing blue and red lights painted the street. 2 local patrol officers, their cruisers, slowing to a halt on either side of Leon's driveway, emerged with a practiced air of professional curiosity. Leon, still standing on his driveway, coffee cup in hand, felt like he was attending a particularly bizarre theatrical performance. With him as the unwitting protagonist, and Karen as the hammy antagonist, Karen, seized by a fresh wave of histrionics, immediately launched into her accusation. Her voice, now amplified by the presence of law enforcement, boomed with indignant certainty. She declared that Leon was illegally installing surveillance equipment designed to spy on her yard and, in a truly remarkable leap of logic, possibly detonate. She pointed a trembling finger at the reinforced mailbox, her gesture imbuing the mundane object with the gravitas of a military arsenal, as if it were a miniature missile silo poised for launch. The 2 officers exchanged confused glances there, initial bewilderment quickly giving way to recognition as their eyes landed on Leon. They knew him, of course. It was Sheriff Leon Hayes. The officers, now aware of the situation's inherent awkwardness, attempted to bring a semblance of order to the unfolding chaos. One of the younger officers, his tone carefully neutral, asked Karen to cease her shouting and step back from the street. This simple request, however, proved to be the catalyst for Karen's ultimate undoing. Her refusal was immediate and absolute. Her grip on her notepad tightened, and her eyes, fixed on Leon, gleamed with a desperate, unyielding conviction. She then produced her trump card, a crumpled copy of the neighborhood bylaws, which she thrust towards the officers. Her finger, coated in a bold red marker, jabbed insistently at a single isolated word: decorative. She pointed to it as if it were incontrovertible evidence, a legal precedent that would surely seal Leon's fate. Officers, however, remained steadfast, their training overriding any potential inclination to be swayed by her passionate, albeit misguided, interpretation of municipal ordinances. It was at this precise moment, as the tension in the air reached its zenith, that Karen made her critical error. Fueled by an adrenaline-fueled delusion that she was acting on behalf of national security, she grabbed a sizable rock from the edge of Leon's meticulously landscaped flower bed. With a guttural cry of, "I'm going to disable the device," she lunged towards the reinforced mailbox, the rock held aloft like a primitive weapon. This, as it turned out, was her biggest mistake. The instant the rock made contact with the reinforced steel of the smart mailbox, its advanced security systems sprang into action. Like a deafening alarm blared, shattering the suburban quiet. Simultaneously, a powerful, flashing blue light erupted. From the mailbox itself, an unmistakable beacon of unauthorized interference. The tamper detection unit, operating precisely as designed, triggered an automatic alert to dispatch, notifying them of the direct assault on the property. Within a mere 90 seconds, the street, which had moments before been occupied by 2 cruisers, now teemed with law enforcement presence. 2 additional patrol cars descended, their sirens wailing as they converged on the scene. Karen found herself utterly surrounded, the rock still clutched in her trembling hand, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. She continued to bluster, her voice now high-pitched and reedy, proclaiming her actions were in defense of the nation against high-tech domestic espionage. The officers, their faces grim but professional, moved in.
Oh.
The spot, not for her initial nonsensical accusations against Leon, but for a far more tangible set of offenses: obstruction of justice, resisting lawful commands, and the very act of tampering with private property. The officers' body cameras, already recording, captured the entirety of her increasingly unhinged pronouncements. Furthermore, it was discovered that Karen had a history of similar, albeit less dramatic, misconduct. A month prior, she had been warned after defacing a neighbor's Ring doorbell camera. She was already on law enforcement's radar for her peculiar brand of neighborhood vigilantism. As they gently but firmly escorted her to the back of a police cruiser, her voice, though muffled by the vehicle's door, could still be heard railing against the injustices of modern mailboxes, the shadowy machinations of the deep state, and, of course, her inalienable right to know what's in everyone's mail. Sheriff Leon Hayes, watching the scene unfold, took another slow sip of his now lukewarm coffee, a faint, weary smile gracing his lips. The un-American mailbox had, it seemed, proven to be remarkably effective.